So Gus was discussing with Belle what would it be that Duncan would want her to do in this situation. And Belle agreed that what Duncan would do was say, well, yeah, do what you came to do. Yeah, and if Duncan was able, that's what he'd say. Belle looked into the kind face, and that look was very reassuring. It was a face that had endured much, and it seemed almost like a map of the 20th century. Stress, trouble, fear, courage, and there was despair too. I guess the girl said, he'd say do what you came to do. Yeah, Belle, I did not know your young Duncan, but I could not help hearing your conversation in the departure lounge and on the aircraft too. You were both so full of youthful enthusiasm and love for all this. Gus pointed and half circled his arm around the forest. Oh, Gus, Duncan had such dreams and such nightmares. Well, maybe tomorrow, if you're feeling well enough, I'll take you to his grave, and then in the evening you can tell me about his dreams and his nightmares. But I think you have to combine your romantic view of things with practical facts, Belinda. I believe we may be in a part of unexplored Brazil, perhaps. You, with your skills and education, must start to record the birds and everything else. Gus knew that he had to occupy the girl and help her to keep thinking positive thoughts, wholesome things. I have found note paper and writing material among the baggage, so you note it all down, and when we're found, you will be a famous explorer already. Belle managed to laugh. Inside, though, she knew her aged German rescuer was speaking for Duncan, and what he was saying was as sound as if he'd known her fiancé for years. Duncan would want her to record it all, but Belle was also realistic. She knew that search records would be interesting if they were found, rather than when they were found. Every day that passed made rescue seem less certain. Gus was right. She did have a romantic and passionate side, but it was balanced by carefully analysing the facts. The fact was they were miles from anywhere. There may not be a road or even a village within easy reach. The wreckage was going to be less visible as time progressed. It was possible that this might be our home for the rest of her life. But even so, to record the forest and fauna would give her a life purpose. She'd been keeping records since she bird-watched with her grandfather, and caring for this gentle old man would give her life some purpose too. Well, Belinda, I think it's time we sought to escape in our dreams. Belle kissed the cheek of a co-survivor and opened up the shelter of the mosquito net, and then she walked to her tent, and as she lay in her sleeping bag she thought first of Duncan. It was still hard to accept that he was dead. Sometimes she thought it was all a bad dream, and that when she awoke he'd be beside her in the plane. She even wondered if there would really be a Gus sitting behind them on the plane. She also knew that comforting herself with such ideas was not wise. Dreams did not go on for days. This was real, stone-cold fact. Just as her mother had once had to accept that her father was dead, even so she would have to accept that Duncan had died, was buried in the Amazon forest that he'd only read about and never actually walked through. All her shared hopes, dreams, aspirations had been smashed to pieces along with the aeroplane when it made that ungraceful crash landing in the forest canopy. Like her mother, Belle would have to accept reality and make her life of what was left. This led her, though, to be thinking about her mother. How would she be coping now? She'd been a great mother, strong, loving and kind, patient, but not over-permissive. She'd encouraged her in her education, had accepted Duncan like a son, and she shared all their dreams. What now? Back in Salisbury, she'd be certain that her daughter had perished when the flight number 219 had died in an incomplete journey. Belinda would visit Duncan's grave tomorrow, but her mother had no grave, no funeral, nothing. She had friends and a good sister, but her daughter was gone. Belle always found it easier to pray for others than for herself, so as she lay there she asked God, "Please fill my mother's heart with comfort and with hope." Then she asked that Gus could be strong, and thanked God that she was alive, and feeling as if she was being rather disrespectful, she asked if she could understand why Duncan, and the others for that matter, had to die. Cool scientific thinking told her that it was human error, somewhere, and she rarely spoke of her religious views. She was like her mother. Northern Ireland had driven the last shreds of a church out of them both. But they both had a personal faith. Bell had argued with Duncan about it often. He was a firm believer in the evolution theory and that everything started with the Big Bang. Though it wouldn't help her career, if she said so, Bell leaned in the direction of intelligent design. She was never sure if her prayers were answered, but she always felt comforted by offering them, and especially in times of trouble. Also, in the stark reality of being one of just two people isolated in a dense forest, their position seemingly unknown by anybody else, and with no direction home, she felt reassurance that maybe some superhuman power knew about them. As Bell drifted off into sleep, comforted by the deep and steady breathing coming from the next tent, she left the forest sounds, the crickets, the frogs, the night birds behind her, and let her mind have the peace of slumber. In the daytime sounds of Salisbury, England, Belle's mother looked at the photo of her daughter and her graduation, and the photograph beside it. There had been no news at all. The policewoman who had visited her several times now had been very kind to her, and the Brazilian embassy and the airline company had been kind too. They'd admitted to her that flight number 219 had just vanished. There'd been a mayday call and then radio contact had been lost. Radar showed its course and then briefly it disappeared, then it came back, then it ceased to show up at all. And though rescuers had flown over miles of treetops and logging companies and villages along the Amazon had been contacted, nobody could give any facts about a crash. A Brazilian embassy spokesman had issued a statement saying that every effort had been made to find the crash site, and he added that a plane in trouble, plummeting like a stone from 8 miles high, could be anywhere, and in the rainforest it could be very hard to find. He extended deep sympathy to the relatives of those on the plane on behalf of the President and the people of Brazil. In an uncharacteristically personal footnote, he added that his cousin Emmanuel had been one passenger on the flight, so his sympathy came from his own personal sad heart. Belle's mother looked from the photograph to the copy of the Daily Mail sitting on her desk. The crash was now relegated to the second page, and it was described as Rainforest Air Mystery. An aviation spokesman was reported as saying, "It is my considered opinion that if the crash site is not discovered in the first week, it could remain hidden for decades." There was little comfort for her from him. As Patricia Devlin sipped her coffee, strong, black, unsugared, she made up her mind that her father's expression, "no news is good news," was cool comfort too. Even more than usual, she wished that her father and her dead Republican husband Thomas Devlin were there to support her. The hardest thing for her was that she could do nothing. Except that is one thing she could do. She could think positively. She sipped her dark coffee again and said in a determined voice out loud, "I will not believe that my daughter is dead until it is proven to me." For some strange reason, the words, "there's an awful lot of coffee in Brazil," filled her mind. And as a tear ran off her cheek onto the newspaper, she also managed to smile, because she knew that if Belle knew what she was thinking, Belinda would be smiling too. Thanks for following on this story, my friends. Hope that you're all well. Kate and I send you our love, and I'll be adding episode 11 very soon. Bye for now. Bye.